let's do this. We are diving deep today into Blackwood Manor.
Ooh, Blackwood Manor.
Yes, Blackwood Manor. This is the one you sent us, right?
Yes, this is the one I sent to you guys, the multi-part series. I thought you would be interested in it, and you are.
And we are. We're very interested. Southern Gothic horror, a possible curse.
Louisiana.
In Louisiana.
Yeah.
A mysterious mansion, all that good stuff.
It's got all the good stuff.
But what really intrigued me is that this is from you.
Yeah.
Like, you actually lived through this.
I did.
Like, these are your firsthand experiences.
Yeah.
That's scary stuff. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are already familiar with the story.
Right.
But let's just lay it out.
Let's do it.
What is the big question?
Yeah, like, what are we trying to figure out here?
What are we trying to figure out?
What's her mission?
Is Blackwood Manor truly cursed?
Right.
What happened to Karen? So we want to look at the events at Blackwood Manor,
Right.
the nature of the curse, and the lasting impact it had on those involved.
Okay.
So let's start at the very beginning with you and Karen arriving at Blackwood Manor.
Right.
You describe it as this massive rundown Victorian mansion shrouded in this creepy, overgrown landscape.
Uh-huh.
You even mentioned feeling like something was watching you from the moment you arrived. Did that feeling intensify once you stepped inside?
Well, you know, that sense of being watched, it's kind of like the first sign often that something's amiss in these haunted house stories.
Right.
It's like almost like the house itself is aware of your presence and maybe not too happy about it.
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling at Blackwood Manor? Did you feel like the house was somehow like sentient?
Totally. And the inside of the house, you know, the musty smells, the cracked walls, the dusty furniture, like you put it perfectly, it screamed bad vibes. And then there's that knocking sound coming from the basement.
Yeah.
Chilling enough on its own, but the fact that Karen had been hearing it ever since her grandmother died,
Wow.
even when she was miles away.
Yeah, that's something else.
That takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, is this haunting tied to the house itself?
Right.
Or is it something attached to Karen?
That's a good question. Like,
Yeah.
in a lot of ghost stories, like, the haunting is location specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, if Karen was hearing this knocking, even when she wasn't at Blackwood Manor, it suggests like a more personal connection.
Yeah.
Almost like this thing's following her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever get that feeling yourself that like the haunting was focused on Karen, maybe even like targeting her?
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
And of course, you had to investigate the source of that knocking, right?
Right.
So down you go into the pitch black basement.
Had to.
You even mentioned hearing faint whispers as you descended.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have taken some serious courage.
It did.
Tell me about the moment you discovered the antique mirror, the one that your grandmother had warned you about.
Right.
It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
Well, mirrors are interesting, right? Like in horror, they're often used like as portals or reflections of the soul, and placing that mirror in the basement, a place that we often associate with hidden secrets or something, you know, adds a whole other layer of symbolism.
Totally.
What was your initial reaction when you saw the mirror? Did it feel menacing? Or was there something else? Maybe something more, I don't know, alluring?
And then things take a truly unsettling turn.
Mm-hmm.
You said that Karen became almost hypnotized by the mirror. She claimed to see a woman in the reflection,
Mm-hmm.
and even started chanting about breaking a curse, something she had never mentioned before.
Never.
Looking back, do you think the mirror was somehow influencing her?
It's interesting that you say that, you know, being hypnotized by the mirror, it suggests like a loss of control, like a vulnerability to outside influence, and this idea that mirrors are gateways, right, for these supernatural entities.
Mm-hmm.
It's a common one. And your description of Karen's behavior definitely seems to fit that pattern.
It's chilling, and from that point on, things just spiraled.
They did.
Karen's behavior became increasingly erratic.
Right.
She was talking to herself, having nightmares about this woman in the mirror, and then you found those notes from her grandmother confirming a family curse and the need for a blood sacrifice to break it.
Right.
That discovery must have been terrifying.
It
It
was.
suddenly made the haunting feel all too real, like this isn't just...
Right, because the grandmother's notes, they give like a history, a context. So it's no longer just some random spooky occurrence.
Yeah.
It's a curse with like deep roots, and that element of the blood sacrifice. It's a classic horror trope, sure, but it's incredibly powerful. It speaks to this idea that breaking a curse requires a significant loss, a price to be paid.
Totally.
Mm,
And it wasn't just Karen that was affected.
right.
Like the house itself seemed to become more malevolent, almost like it was working with the curse.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned lights going out, the car refusing to start,
Yeah.
and even seeing the woman from the mirror in your own room whispering cryptic warnings.
Right.
Did you ever feel like the house was actively trying to trap you?
Yeah, that's a recurring theme in these haunted house stories.
Ah.
The house becoming a character, like an
Oh.
active participant. It's like the house itself is possessed, feeding off all this negative energy.
Yeah.
Blackwood Manor, it sounds like, was more than just a setting. It was an entity in its own right. Did
Yeah.
you ever feel like you were like fighting the house itself as well as the curse?
And then things took a truly terrifying turn.
Right.
Karen vanishes, the mirror in her room is shattered, and there's that message written in blood. The curse begins anew.
Oh.
What was going through your mind at that moment?
Yeah, like
Did you feel like the curse was escalating?
right.
That it was no longer just about Karen, but about you as well?
Oh.
The curse begins anew. That message, it sends shivers down my spine just hearing you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, you knew you couldn't stay at Blackwood Manor, but it sounds like the house itself was actively trying to trap you. Was it a physical barrier or more of a feeling that something was holding you back?
It's a common thing, in Gothic horror, that sense of being trapped, unable to escape. It often represents the character's own internal struggles, like their inability to break free from the past or their own demons. Did you feel like the house was reflecting something within you? Maybe your own fear or a sense of responsibility for what was happening?
You mentioned digging deeper into Karen's grandmother's journal, desperate for answers. You found details about a ritual, right? To either seal or release the spirit in the mirror. But it was vague. It mentioned needing a descendant's blood and burning the mirror in a sacred flame, neither of which you had at that moment. Did those missing pieces feel like, I don't know, like insurmountable obstacles? Or did it spark a determination to find a way to improvise?
It's interesting, right? How often in these stories, these ancient rituals or spells are like incomplete or shrouded in mystery. It forces the characters to interpret, to fill in the blanks, and that can be both empowering and terrifying. Did you feel a sense of responsibility, like it was up to you to figure out the missing pieces and break the curse?
And all the while, you're having these vivid dreams about Blackwood Manor, hearing whispers saying, "We're waiting for you." You were being drawn to this place even before you knew about the curse. Did those dreams feel like premonitions? Like you were destined to confront this darkness?
Destiny. The idea of a preordained destiny, of being drawn into a situation beyond your control, it's powerful, right? It suggests that we're not always in control of our own fate, that some things are simply meant to be veilating. Did you ever feel like you were fighting against fate? Or did you embrace the idea that you had a role to play in this story, even if it was a terrifying one?
Then there's that picture you found, right? The woman who looks exactly like you. And the journal's repeated mention of needing to trust what lies within. It all points to a connection between you and Blackwood Manor that goes deeper than anyone realized. Did you ever feel like the house was trying to communicate with you, to guide you towards something?
That connection you felt to the house, to that woman in the picture, it's almost as if Blackwood Manor was calling to you, reaching out across time and space. This idea of a past life connection, it adds another layer to the story, right? It suggests that the curse might not just be a random event, but something tied to your own personal history, your own soul. Did that realization frighten you? Or did it give you a sense of purpose, a feeling that you were meant to be there?
And in the midst of all this, you find a letter addressed to Jessica, hidden in an old box. It tells you to look beyond what you see in the mirror and trust what lies within. That's a powerful message, and it seems to shift the focus from external solutions to an internal one. Did that letter change your approach to the curse? Did you start to see it as something you needed to confront within yourself, as well as within the house?
The letter acts as like a catalyst, a turning point in your journey. It suggests that the answer to breaking the curse lies not just in, like external rituals or objects, but in your own inner strength, your own intuition. Did you find yourself relying more on your instincts after reading that letter? Trusting your gut even when things seemed impossible?
So you go back to the basement, drawn to the mirror once again. But this time, instead of seeing your own reflection, you see your childhood self, living in Blackwood Manor, completely consumed by the curse. What was it like to see that vision, that alternate reality where you were trapped, a victim of the curse? Did it solidify your determination to break free, to prevent that future from becoming your reality?
That vision of your childhood self, it's such a powerful image. A glimpse into what could have been, or perhaps what still might be, if you fail to break the curse. It's a warning, a reminder of the stakes, and it seems to push you to take action, even though you don't have all the answers.
Despite the missing pieces, despite the fear and uncertainty, you decide to perform the ritual. You draw a circle with salt, surround the mirror with candles representing the cursed family members, and start chanting the incantation. It's a bold move, a leap of faith. Did you feel a sense of power in that moment, of taking control? Or was it pure desperation, a last-ditch effort to save yourself and Karen?
The ritual itself is fascinating, Like, it's this blend of practicality and symbolism. The salt, the candles, the incantation, they all have these specific meanings, creating the sense of mystical power. But it's also a physical act, right? A way of focusing your intention and channeling your will. Did you feel that shift in energy as you performed the ritual? A sense that something was changing, even if you didn't know what the outcome would be?
The air grows cold, the candle flames flicker wildly, the mirror shakes. It sounds like the spirit is resisting, fighting against your attempt to break free. Then you see Karen's reflection in the mirror, terrified, mouthing the words, "Help me." That must have been a gut-wrenching moment. Did seeing her, knowing she was still in there somewhere, fuel your determination to complete the ritual, no matter the cost?
That vision of Karen, it reminds you of the human cost of the curse, the suffering it inflicts. It gives your actions a personal dimension, a sense of urgency. It's no longer just about breaking a curse, it's about saving your friend.
And in that moment of desperation, you cut your hand, letting your blood fall into the mirror, fulfilling that requirement of the blood sacrifice. It's a powerful act, a symbolic connection to your lineage, to the curse itself. Did you feel a surge of power as you did it? A sense of connection to something ancient and primal?
Blood is such a potent symbol in horror, representing both life and death, sacrifice and lineage. Your willingness to use your own blood speaks to your commitment, your determination to break the curse, even if it means putting yourself at risk.
It doesn't break the curse completely, but it weakens it. The mirror cracks and glows, the screams intensify, and you realize you need to burn it, but you still don't have that sacred flame mentioned in the journal. In that moment of crisis, with the spirit resisting and the ritual incomplete, what went through your mind?
It's like you're so close to the solution, but you're missing that one crucial element, right?
Yeah.
It forces you to think on your feet, to improvise, to trust your intuition. And that's exactly what you do. You remember the message about trusting what lies within and make a bold decision.
Instead of searching for an external source, you touch the mirror with your bloodied hand. And then, in a burst of light and silence, the mirror explodes, vanishes completely. It's a powerful climax, a release of tension. What did that moment feel like for you? Was it relief, exhaustion?
Yeah.
Or something else entirely? Wow, it's amazing. You take this huge risk, you're relying on instinct, and the mirror, the very source of this whole haunting, just implodes. It's just gone. But then, silence. The oppressive feeling is gone, but you're left with this overwhelming sadness. Karen's still missing, and the house itself feels empty, like all the life has been sucked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Did it feel, I don't know, wrong somehow?
It's like victory coming at a price, You've faced this unimaginable horror, right? You've confronted this powerful curse, but you get the feeling like the battle isn't really over, and that feeling of wrongness, like something's still off. It reminds me of those stories where defeating one evil just makes space for another to come in.
Yeah, like the calm before the storm. And then you find Karen's letter. It's bittersweet. She's safe, free from the curse, but she's also gone. And the house is like it's giving up. The walls fade, the floor dissolves beneath your feet. Blackwood Manor is literally saying goodbye. Did you feel a sense of loss? Like you were losing a part of yourself along with the house?
The house dissolving, it's almost like Blackwood Manor was like tethered to the curse. And now that the curse is weakened, it can't exist anymore. And that sense of loss you're talking about makes me wonder, was there a part of you that felt connected to Blackwood Manor, despite all the horror you went through?
It's a strange feeling to be connected to a place that caused so much pain, right?
Right.
And then you're back in New Orleans, just back to life like normal. But nobody remembers Blackwood Manor. It's like it was all a dream, a nightmare that only you remember. That feeling of isolation must have been intense. How did you cope with that, knowing that you were the only one who knew this chilling secret?
It's a common thing, in these stories about the supernatural, that erasure of memory. It emphasizes the isolation of the person telling the story, that burden of carrying this knowledge that no one else can share. Did you ever feel like you had to tell someone to share your story, or did you keep it to yourself, afraid of what people would think?
It's a heavy burden to carry alone. But The story doesn't end there, does it?
No.
Those whispers that haunted you throughout your time at Blackwood Manor, they come back.
Mm.
And now they're saying you cannot stop this.
Hmm.
It's like the curse or something connected to it followed you home.
Yeah.
Did that realization spark a new kind of fear? Knowing that leaving Blackwood Manor didn't mean leaving the danger behind?
That's what makes this story so compelling, you know? Even after everything, there's this feeling of unease, this like lingering threat. And those whispers, you cannot stop this. Like maybe you weren't meant to break the curse, but to become a part of it. How did you interpret them? A threat, a warning, or something else?
Like a puzzle with a missing piece.
Mm.
And then you're poring over the journal again, and you discover another entry. The seal requires the blood of a descendant and the burning of the mirror in sacred flames. But the mirror's gone. What was going through your mind, knowing that crucial part of the ritual was missing? Possibly forever.
Almost like the curse is taunting you.
Yeah.
Reminding you that you didn't really win. It makes you ask some deeper questions, right? Like, what is this curse really? And what's it for?
You're still searching for those answers, but then, this is crazy, a new door appears in your house. A door that was never there before. Yeah. It leads to this circular room bathed in this golden light, and in the center, there's this stone pedestal with a shadow just sitting on it.
Wow.
You realize this must be the Eternal Watcher, the source of the curse. It's like stepping into another dimension, into the heart of the mystery itself. What was that moment like? That first encounter with the entity behind it all?
That's what makes a good haunting, you know? That blend of the familiar and the totally strange. A new door in your own house, leading to a place outside of space and time. It suggests that Blackwood Manor was just the beginning. A doorway into a much larger world. And the Eternal Watcher. It's a name that's both scary and, I don't know, awesome.
Did you feel like you were in the presence of something ancient, something way beyond human understanding?
And this being, this Eternal Watcher, reveals that the curse wasn't a mistake, but like a safeguard, protecting something hidden within Blackwood Manor. So by breaking the curse, even partially, you've disrupted a larger balance, a balance between light and darkness. It's not just about breaking free, it's about restoring order. How did that revelation change how you understood the curse? Did it make you question whether you were right to try and break it at all?
Wow, so it wasn't a mistake. It's like there are forces at work beyond good and evil. Sometimes darkness is necessary, right? To hold back something even more dangerous. Did that knowledge make you feel like you were in over your head, like you'd stumbled into something you just couldn't understand? You're not just dealing with a haunted house anymore, but with a cosmic balancing act. The Eternal Watcher tells you that to truly restore equilibrium, you have to give part of yourself to the light and part to the darkness. What did that mean to you? Was it a literal sacrifice? Or something more symbolic, like confronting your own inner darkness?
Giving part of yourself to both light and darkness. It speaks to that duality in human nature, right? The fact that we all have good and evil inside us, light and shadow. It's a challenge to accept all those parts of yourself, even the parts that are painful or scary.
Did you see this as a test? A way to prove you were worthy to restore balance?
You're faced with an impossible choice. To sacrifice your memories of Blackwood Manor, of your friendship with Karen, to sever those final threads of the curse. But something inside you resists. You remember those words from the letter, the message about courage, and you realize that true courage isn't about giving up, but about fighting for what matters, even if it means enduring pain. Tell me about that moment, that decision to defy the Eternal Watcher. That defiance, it's like a turning point. You're not just reacting to this curse anymore, you're making a choice, taking control, even though you're facing something ancient and powerful. What did it feel like to stand up to the Eternal Watcher? To refuse to give up something so precious?
And that's when the mirror reappears, but it's brighter than ever. And Karen's silhouette appears in it. She tells you that you've done well, but you're needed one last time. It's like one final call to adventure. But this time, you're not going into the curse alone. Tell me about that final journey into the mirror world, experiencing the entire history of the curse. What did you learn about the origins of Blackwood Manor, the true nature of the haunting?
Journeying through time, experiencing the curse from the beginning, it suggests that understanding the past is the key to healing the present. It's almost like the curse is trying to teach you something, to show you its power and its purpose.
And you discover that the woman who was sacrificed, she did it willingly to protect her family from some threat we never learn about. But the ritual was flawed. Her spirit was trapped, and the cycle of suffering began. It adds this whole other layer of tragedy, right? This understanding that good intentions can have terrible consequences. Did you feel empathy for her, for the burden she carried for so long?
It's a classic element of Gothic horror, isn't it? That even the most selfless acts can have these unintended consequences. It makes the curse more complex. It's a story of sacrifice, of love and loss, and it makes that need for resolution even stronger.
You realize that to truly break the curse, you need to go back to the source, to the moment of the original ritual, and somehow set things right. A new door appears, leading to the ceremonial hall, a magic circle etched into the floor. This is where it began, and this is where it has to end. What was it like to stand in that space, feeling the weight of history, knowing that everything rested on your shoulders?
It's like stepping into a sacred space, right? A place where the line between worlds is thin. That magic circle, the symbols on the floor, they all point to something going wrong, a desperate attempt to control these forces that were just too powerful to contain.
And you see it. There's a crack in the circle, a flaw in the original ritual.
Mm.
This imperfection, this leak in the system, is what's keeping the curse alive. You try to repair it, but this unseen force pushes you back. You realize that it's not enough to just fix the physical circle. You have to complete it using something of yourself, something more than just willpower. What was going through your mind, knowing that you had to give a part of yourself to heal this ancient wound.
It's a powerful image, that crack in the circle. It just shows how imperfect human actions are, how even the best intentions can go wrong. And you realize you have to give something of yourself to fix it. It says a lot about true healing, that it takes sacrifice, that willingness to give something precious to restore balance.
So you cut your hand, let your blood drip onto the crack, and then boom. The whole room erupts. The circle glows, whispers turn to screams, and there's this incredible surge of power. It's working. You're finally breaking the cycle. Describe that feeling, that release of energy, the culmination of everything you've been through.
Pure catharsis, right? Like the climax of your whole journey, the blood sacrifice, the connection to your family, your understanding of where this curse came from. It all comes together to break free from the past.
The Eternal Watcher appears again, but this time, not as this menacing shadow, but with peace. She smiles and says, "You've done well. You've done what I could not." And then she dissolves into light, finally free. It's a bittersweet victory, tinged with the sadness of her sacrifice. What was going through your mind as you witnessed her release, knowing that her burden was finally lifted?
It's a reminder that even the darkest things can find redemption, that sometimes the greatest sacrifices come from love, not malice. It's a beautiful moment of closure, a testament to what you've done and how strong the human spirit can be.
But your journey isn't over yet. The circle collapses, forming a portal, and you're called to take one final step. You go through the portal and you find yourself in this vast, endless space filled with golden light. But within that light is this massive, shadowy figure. It reveals that the curse wasn't a mistake, but a safeguard, protecting some hidden power within Blackwood Manor. By breaking the curse, you've disrupted the balance, this balance between light and darkness, and now it's your responsibility to restore it. What was it like to stand before this cosmic entity, to realize that the curse was just a tiny part of something much, much bigger?
Wow, it takes it to a whole other level, right? Like cosmic level. The curse was just a small piece of this huge tapestry, this delicate balance between forces that we can't even begin to understand. It's a reminder that what we do has far-reaching consequences. Even with good intentions, we can mess things up without even knowing it.
The figure tells you that to restore that equilibrium, you need to give part of yourself to the light and part to the darkness. It's not about sacrifice, but about acceptance, about embracing both sides within yourself. It's such a powerful message about the nature of good and evil, about finding that balance inside ourselves before we can even try to find it in the world.
Yeah.
Tell me about that moment when you realize that true power comes from being whole, not divided.
Accepting it all, it's the culmination of your journey, right? You faced the darkness in Blackwood Manor, and now you're facing the darkness inside yourself. It shows just how much you've grown.
So you sit in that space, reflecting, accepting your past, your flaws, the darkness that you carry within you. The shadow merges with the light, and you're told you're ready. You go back to that basement one last time, but it's peaceful. The mirror, the altar, the whispers, they're all gone. Blackwood Manor is gone, but its story lives on in your memory, a reminder of the darkness you faced and the light you found within yourself. What a story. Your story is a powerful testament to courage, to the strength of the human spirit. You faced unimaginable horror and came out stronger. You broke a generational curse, not through force, but through understanding and finding balance within yourself. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with compassion, acceptance, and a willingness to face our own inner demons. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We hope you all found this deep dive into Blackwood Manor as insightful as we did.
Absolutely.